Hey guys, it's funny because through the years people have coined me Mr. Legato or whatever, and I never set off to do that. That was just a thing that I had to figure out how to do because I couldn't pick alternate picking style. I was always so terrible at that. But having said that, I mean, I guess in reverse engineering, trying to figure out what it is that I do realize that I do hammer on and pull off a lot. And so hopefully these licks will give you some extra strength in your left hand. Some new ideas. You know, mostly a lot of these licks are just motifs that I use to kind of explore the fingerboard, not so much as to play a lick that's built from these exercises, but more to discover the fretboard and to learn different paths and different avenues of getting around the scales instead of just playing them in one pattern or another. I try to connect a couple patterns by stretching and try to bridge those little gaps of where we traditionally learn scales on the fretboard. So anyway, having said that, let me start off with this first lick. This is, I'll keep them all pretty much in A minor, A Dorian. And the first one I want to do may seem incredibly simple to you, but it's very effective. And the idea is to crawl up the fretboard no matter which scale you're on. But in this case, by pretty much just picking. So in this case, I'm hitting G, E, F sharp, we're in A Dorian, but it's 8th, 5th, and 7th fret. And that sets me up for to the A. So really the only time I'm picking is the first time I hit the B string and when I hit the A string. So the pattern would go like this. Right? If I put it to a groove, when you learn these kind of licks, you have to play around with the timing. You can do something as simple as say, "Oh, well, I'm going to maybe just use the G and the A and the E string and skip the B string completely." Something as crazy as that. So then they would be. Once again, the idea here is to see the channels that are the possibilities, not necessarily to practice a lick per se. It's more or less just to open up the different patterns and let you see the different places where the guitar can connect. That's the way I teach these days, and it seems to help a lot of students get out of ruts that we all fall into at time to time. But that's the first lick. Let's move on to another one. Okay, this one is a little bit based on the thing I talked about on the last lick, and this is we'll stay in A minor again, A Dorian, just for simplicity and familiarity. And this idea is came to me when I was in a practice room in Japan, actually, and I was just bored, and I was trying to come up with different ideas. Once again, just for physical motion and just to see the possibilities on the fretboard, not so much to play this particular lick. But the idea was this. We're in A minor. So on the G string, I'm going to play A, C, A. And then I'm going to go to the A string and play C, B. So the lick would be. And I'm only picking once on each string, right? Distortion. And also I would recommend practicing these licks with a clean tone because it really forces you to make sure you have the authority and the strength in your left hand. Sometimes with a pedal or distortion you can get away with murder. You put a lot of delay and reverb on it and you think you're Eric Clapton or something. But puts us in time to the click. Once again, this isn't for a particular lick. This is just for getting the strength for the legato in your left hand. The third lick I want to show you is one that I probably lifted off of, was trying to figure out what Alan Holdsworth was doing. It's a little harder and takes a little extra strength in the left hand, but it goes. And let's stay in A minor, like we were before. And that's the lick right there. That doesn't sound like very much, does it? But check it out. Once again, staying in A minor, in 1 sharp, A Dorian. Wherever you can do, wherever the fingers they can be spread out more, you could do. You can try wider intervals. You can even do like some kind of weird diminishing if you want to. But the idea is to get that comfortably under your fingers. And of course, the harder part is really getting into these licks. It's like I say, these are not licks per se, but they're just they're motifs, they're patterns, and they're strengthening exercises. That really the secret is how you get in and how you get out of them. In other words, I wouldn't want to just stop, like 3, 4. That's not the mission. That's not what you want to get. You want to be able to, like, in the middle of one of your other lines, like right? So I'm putting it in the middle of other lines. Right? So the idea is to be able to sneak them in around all your other licks that you already know. Here's lick number 4. This is an interesting approach. One thing I noticed watching Alan Holdsworth and some other great legato players, even Eddie Van Halen sometimes, the sound would be going down in pitch, but his hand would be moving up the fretboard. And I realized this is yet another way to kind of reach across our already practiced patterns and try to connect the patterns. In this case, we'll stay in A minor like all of these are. And the idea is to try to ascend, and this can be an exercise for you to just visually see the fretboard patterns too. We, in school, were taught to play in whatever pattern that might be. But my point is that I'm trying to get, let's say, from there to over here in one pattern by going right, by using different fingers. In other words, in my old style picking, I might have gone, which is all fine and dandy, but what I'm trying to do is using those 2 different fingers, something as simple as that, all of a sudden your hand is put in this whole nother position. So you can visualize again. Let me put this to music here a little bit. So it's something as simple as, like, when I get to the bottom of my little pattern, maybe even it's across 2 notes, I'm kind of stretching into another pattern. And therefore, hopefully seeing the guitar fretboard as one big pattern, not a bunch of little. This is a hard lick. This is one I also probably got from probably trying to sound like Alan Holdsworth very unsuccessfully at one time in my life, but I was trying. And one thing that kind of came to me, I like this one little chromatic line that he would play often. I'm not even sure it's really it, but it was, you know, back when we were slowing things down on the phonograph from 33 to 16. This is probably about as close as we could get. But we'll stay in the key of A minor. And the little lick motion that I want you to check out is... Does that sound like a lot? I don't know. I'm going... So, depending on where I am, I'm finding... And also, and this is where it's fun too. You need to be able to like jump around and try different keys and try starting on different notes. But the motif in this case... Now, it's a little out because it's on a strung beat turns into it has a major 7 from the A minor. That's acceptable, you know. So, and then I'm hammering on to some note there above it. Now, okay, so if I want to get, this is a motif meant to just strengthen your legato ideas, to strengthen your left hand, to hopefully generate some more ideas on your end. But the idea is a little unorthodox. Let's try some time. Okay, so here's another lick that you might find interesting. I did a feature on this in MI years ago, and I use it to this day still. And the idea is, once again, trying to bridge the pattern, trying to bridge the fretboard into one large pattern. The idea is to take anywhere you have a half step. In this case, we're still in A minor. And slide and stretch. And the idea is... Or you could go, I'm going to be jazzy, put the major 7 in there. And once again, this is just a movement. It's the physical exercise. You can put it to whatever, if I want to make it A major. But the secret is to do it in time and connect it with other ideas around that, like to make it sound like something, make it sound cohesive. So let's put it to a groove. Something like that. Okay, there's another interesting concept here. With the advent of guys back in the 80s and 90s like Alan Holdsworth and Eddie Van Halen, guitar players have learned how to stretch a lot on the fretboard, more maybe than they used to in the Herb Ellis days, right? So what that enables some of the guitar patterns to evolve to are like similar to saxophone, to having doubling of notes, because the B and G string are closely tuned together, so you can get a doubling effect of a... That's kind of a pretty sound. And you can even get it like higher up on the fretboard where it's a little easier. You can get another juxtaposed where not only that... So those are all like really kind of handy things to know. So when you stretch out, you can get these wide intervals. And once again, we're training our mind to see the patterns. What used to be 2 patterns or 3 patterns, we're seeing as 1, and that's really where the love is. That's where you can really start expressing yourself in a new original way. So this one lick that I wanted to show you is basically A minor. We're singing A minor again, and I'm going to find, instead of playing in the little pentatonic shape that we all know, jump to the second pentatonic and put them together. And do that wherever you can, you know, wherever I can see. I might even go for a flat 5. And that's just going, it's just like a pentatonic shape would be. But I'm skipping. You know, you have to decide how to make them musical. You have to put them into your own scales, put them in between your other licks that you like, and make them work for you. But a couple of things to remember: practice with a clean tone to make sure you're really articulating really well. Practice with different grooves. Try putting on hip hop. Try putting on a slow 6/8 song. See if you can still do it. And make sure it's musical. Make sure you can sing along with all of it. That's really what legato is about: is giving you that extra dynamic touch. I think that makes the legato style in general a little bit more musical than other styles. Okay, guys, carry on.